Welcome back to Retail Realities, a Storyboard Special on CNBC TV 18. On today's show, we are getting reactions from retail categories like apparel, jewelry, furnishing, furniture, watches, lifestyle categories to the proposed and new FDI rules for the retail sector. The government expects 100% FDI in single brand retail that was notified in January to result in greater competitiveness thanks to access to global designs, technologies and management practices. How will it affect well-entrenched, profitable domestic retail brands? That's what we're going to explore next. Bhaskar, Bhat, give us a sense of what opportunities this will provide, your category and to a company like yours.
Where certainly consumers will benefit is in single brand retail at the luxury end. I mean, luxury brands are not finding a platform here in this country. Not enough of stores are available. Those brands, however, worldwide, they have not shown an inclination to get into retail. They have always believed in multi-brand retail.
So that's where you come in, because you license, a whole bunch of brands, not at that end, of course.
So we could be the franchisee, for some of these guys, because we have the
So you're saying there are opportunities?
There are opportunities. We have a format, a multi-brand format called Helios, for example. That's by itself doing well, and we are doing it all on our own. So what somebody can bring to that really is some more brands. We are not looking for retail expertise. There is a little bit somebody. But at the high end, the luxury end, yes, there could be. Similarly in jewelry, there aren't big jewelry brands except Tiffany. Now, Tiffany by Indian standards is also very high priced, So what he was saying, in the mid-market, the attractiveness outside in may not be very high, but, we would be happy.
All right, William Bissell, the conditions that go with allowing 100% FDI in the single brand retail space remain the same, except for one critical one, and that is 30% of the value of products sold would have to be done from Indian small industries, village and cottage industries, artisans and craftsmen. So the question to you is, do you think that, because you at FabIndia source from these artisans and have been doing so for a long time now, you have got community-owned companies in this space. Do you think that this demand can be met, and what do you make of this condition?
Actually, Anuradha, let me correct you. There are two things in the policy, one that the media haven't picked up on. The first thing in the policy is that it expressively restricts Indian brands from raising global capital. It's almost like this policy was dictated to by someone abroad who said because Indian brands cannot access global capital unless they sell their brand to the global investor. This is a shocking thing in the policy. Now, it's interesting that no journalist has actually read the policy, because when you read the fine print on the policy, it says this, and it's something that it basically is saying that any global brand from China, from anywhere in the world, can come to India and set up shop, open stores. But no Indian brand can access global capital and go abroad. And it's something that we have brought to the attention of the government, saying that, it's quite an embarrassment, because what it's expressly, the message it's sending out is that Indian brands should not go global. And that's something that I personally am very opposed to, because I think Indian brands have a lot to show the world. This whole program has been talking about how foreign brands can come to India. I want to see a program on how Indian brands can take our message and our products and our ideas to the world. On the 30% SME, I think it's a great idea. I think it's very important to help this sector and this economy that's providing a lot of jobs in rural areas, and I think it's a very good policy. I know people who believe that there should be no fetters, but I'm not one of those who agrees with them. I think that this will help. Foreign brands will have to source in India. This will create a lot of employment where it's most needed.
Right. And you're saying that the network is available to meet demand that is going to get generated?
There are hundreds of millions of young Indians who need jobs, and this is a fantastic way to provide it. Let nobody tell you any other way. There are lots of entrepreneurs in this country. They're raring to get the opportunity to go. And we will scale up the production to, our community-owned companies, for one, can produce much more than they're currently producing. So they will be the greatest beneficiary of this policy.
Perhaps in apparel, the SME sector can rise to the challenge. But if you actually look at consumer durables and electronics and so on, I think the consumer will suffer if it has to be locally produced. And an SME, by definition, has a limited capital. And so you'll end up having the big companies fragmenting into 10 SMEs, and so you're going to have a bit of a mess on your hands. So it's a mixed blessing, good for some sectors, not great for others.
You retail in a whole bunch of countries, isn't it, around the world? We just heard William talk about, we just heard William talk about the fact that there seems to be something in this policy that may prevent brands like his going global. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's, I'm surprised, and I haven't read it in that kind of detail, and I'm hearing it for the first time. First of all, from a Titan Industries perspective, I mean, we don't need the capital. We don't need to raise capital, but I think it's patently unfair if it was to stop. Because as he said, I mean, this is the time for Indian brands to really go global. There is quality, there is good marketing, and there is, at least in Asia, there's big opportunity for Indian companies, Indian brands, and if it's going to stop them from raising capital, this is not on. I mean, it surprises me.
But you're saying that the potential to have global brands that are originally from India or that originate in India is huge.
It is huge.
In the retail space.
In the retail space, and particularly in Asia. I would say Asia, Africa. These are the two, at least, geographies that Titan is looking at. But the retail format in our categories, as I said, except in India, this has not prospered. I mean, this retail chain concept in watches, there are only 3 or 4, and they are all at the luxury end. Chroma, for example, is a retail brand, or Helios. Now, those, I mean, the success that they've achieved here, if that's going to, get them overseas, and something's going to, like raising capital is going to come in the way, that's a pity.
Right. Okay, we'll need to explore the point William has raised. We'll have to go back and take a look at that, and that's another show, I'm guessing. But Sriram, how do you see this play out in the next 5-10 years?
When you're talking about non-food categories, the customers are ready. And if you look at our demand, in the next 10 years, demand should double at the very least, right? So customers are ready. The market is there. Now, people need to scale. Now, retail is a scale game.
Rama, but what I get to hear from Bhaskar, William, even in the report that Nikita filed, Indian retailers seem very gung-ho in all these categories that there will not be, real clear competition, and that they're willing to deal with it, or they're able to deal with it. Is this bravado?
No, there are two issues here. One, I think that the Indian consumer is such a difficult animal that I have absolutely no doubt that the distilled wisdom of a FabIndia or of a Titan or a Tanishq is going to take a long time before anybody can actually run with that and offer consumers better. That's at some of these levels. On the other hand, if you were planning to sell T-shirts and jeans that you could globally source from, others can globally source cheaper from elsewhere, I think people who are doing that will be given a run for their money. But my question really is that the question remains, why haven't you folks scaled? Because the total number of stores that both these, or if you even other than a mobile store, I think.
Yeah. In fact, let me get William in here, because he's got 146 stores, I think, as we speak, and I know that there seems to be this great hunger to expand, isn't it, William?
We actually, FabIndia as a whole, has 250 stores now globally, both globally and in India. We have 148 stores in India, and actually now 112 overseas, along with our subsidiary company in the UK. So we have,
you mean east, east, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. Retail is a capital-intensive business. There is no way to get around it. We are hungry for capital. Capital is very expensive in India because India is an emerging market. It's a rapidly growing economy. Capital is expensive here. Capital around the world is available at very, very low prices. We need to be able to access that global capital, and I believe that the government should make every effort it can to allow Indian brands to access global capital so that they can grow rapidly.
All right. Bhaskar, I saw you agreeing, nodding vigorously when William was just speaking. But the point is that companies like yours, backed by groups like the Tata Group, capital is not a problem for a company like yours.
Yes, it is not, and particularly for us.
And you have your own manufacturing.
We have our own. This is the point, you know. When I speak here, I wear the retailer hat, but really we are a brand company.
Right. True.
And we design our own products, we make our own product, and retail is an enabler. But all that everybody said, you know, is true for us also, but it's not a significant concern. Our model has been a franchising model. So capital, for example, we have used entrepreneurs really for scaling up. And, you know, your point about scaling up, the initial cost, you know, in our case, let's say manufacturing investments or brand investments, that is what you need scale for. After a while, it's really, you know, because a store, every retailer knows that a retail chain has to be profitable at every retail store level.
Yeah.
Right,
you know,
right,
so
yeah.
it's not. Its scale is not. Scale helps where you're a retailer of other people's goods. So you're buying from other people. So that scale helps bringing your costs down.
Yeah.
Whereas in our case, that scale is only helping us leverage. You know,
Right.
our returns just go up.
Okay. Sriram, starting with you, I'll come around to everybody and end with Rama. Give us your last thought on this show, given the theme that we have.
Yeah, one is I agree with what William said. Indian capital is expensive, and Indian retailers should be able to access capital where it's available at the lowest price. Yeah, why can't we access capital freely while others can enter our markets and, you know, access our markets easily? I think that's one point. Second point is, you know, there is a huge gap in the middle of the market space. In the mass market space, there are opportunities for Indian brands, Indian manufacturers, Indian retailers to actually build large-scale businesses.
Right. William?
I think that the policy that has been announced by the government is a really large step in the right direction, and I feel that if we can do two other things, which is open up our commercial space in urban areas and free it from the amount of restriction it has, if the goods and services tax bill passes in Parliament, I think India will begin to roar again. I think that we will become the most attractive retail destination in the world, and possibly close to $50 to $100 billion will pour in over the next decade in this field.
All right, Rama?
Instead of thinking multi-brand and single brand, let's think non-food and grocery and food and grocery, and get the show on the road on non-food and grocery, because everybody's ready, willing, able, waiting.
That seems to be the consensus,
right? And the customer wins, and the losers have already lost. So let's just get this show on the road and worry about the kiranas later on.
Absolutely.
All right, on that note, thank you everybody, and thank you for watching. Tune in next week to hear the other side of the story, to hear why some people believe that the benefits that are expected to flow from opening up the retail sector are actually a pipe dream. You don't want to miss that concluding show of Retail Realities here on CNBC TV 18. So see you next week.